part of the show today, and I'm told Steve is already there. A very good day to you, sir, Mr. Steve.
Yeah, good day, and thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to always have you on the show. I know you are bringing juicy of analysis for us on equity market today.
Yes, of course.
Right.
Let's go and make money today.
Exactly. Let's make money, and let's take people along to go and make that money.
Mm.
All right, let's start.
It's important.
Exactly. So, in the last 2-3 weeks, there have been these rumble roster issues about the equity market, bearish outing and the rest of them. What really informed this decline in equity stock over the week, from your own perspective and assessment?
To be honest, there are two perspectives to it. One, you look at it from the perspective that this is ritual, it's normal that at moments like this, we have the bullish, we have the bearish. There will be a time the market will retrieve, will rebase itself, and investors will take some stocks and repositions themselves, and there will be some level of sell-offs. Yes, that's the perspective in the market. Then you can also look at it from the macro economic decisions that may have not been that favorable to the market from the point of exacerbated interest rate regime that is above 27.5%, and other macroeconomic decisions that have not been that favorable to the market. So these are the surviving two perspectives that could suggest where the market is. For those of us who play in the market, we know for sure that is a time to take stock and optimistic consciousness buying. And people are considering the fact that in the last 2-3 years, we've also witnessed some level of bullish run in the equities, and some equities perhaps may also be selling above their intrinsic value. So definitely these are the things that we, the traders, investors, and other key operators and players look at for. And then you can also have a third leg of the perspective, which is the analytical aspect of it. This is the earnings season. Investors, shareholders, and stakeholders are in high expectation of dividend declarations. And in the weeks ago, people are not being that optimistic, given the fact most of the equities that drive this very high dividend yield or the high EPLs and has a very good history of paying good dividends. We have seen how much the flotation of their shares have increased. So investors are actually, from the analytical point of view, factoring these very developments. You recently saw a couple of banks. In fact, almost all the banks went to the market to raise trillions of naira, and these have actually weighted down their EPS, given the fact that these very new shares that was listed in favor of these respective banks will actually bring down their earning per share, which is one of the key factors that investors consider. Then investors also look at the historic dividend payments, the manner at which they've been paying dividends, and the ratio of their dividend payments to shareholders and stakeholders, which is the dividend yield. So we have seen a good number of traders have also seen that, given the fact that some of these very financial institutions had close to 30 billion issues shared, some has 35, 28 to 38. Now they have added close to 10 billion units of shares. It means an average bank now has nothing less than 50 billion units of shares, though yes, in the last 2-3 years, they've also had a very tremendous increase in their top line and bottom line. That is the top line, their gross earnings and their profit after tax also have seen some level of degree of increase. Now, on one hand, they are making progress in improving their financial statements. On the other hand, investors are also being rewarded with good dividend payouts. Then there is an addition to it, which is when investors are rewarded with good dividend payments, it simply means that investors will drive for these very equities. And we have witnessed in the last 1, 2, 3 years that these equities have gone up. Some have increased more than 200, 300%. For instance, equity like UBA was selling 2, 3 years ago around 7 naira, 6 naira to 8 naira. Currently, as I speak, is selling above 28, 38 naira. So given the fact that it's more than 1,800, 700% increase in this very stock. So these are the things, analytically speaking, investors are looking at, and that's why you saw this very trend in the last 2, 3 weeks that we witnessed close to 1.4 trillion naira shedded away from the market capitalization. And week to date, or let me say the year to date, is still quite bullish in the sense that we still have a more than 1.98% in our year to date increase. Thank you.
The very insightful analysis from you. At least you are giving me a background that will make many of our viewers to understand where we are coming from and where we are going. But in that regard, when you made mention of the financial sector, pulling weight behind because of their recapitalization, a lot of people have been asking, what about the other sectors, the consumer goods, the insurance? I understand that this year insurance is also pulling weight. They are trying to recapitalize to about 600 billion by the time the new act that will evaluate and overhaul the insurance sector come into place. But the question is, other sector, what is happening to them? The consumer goods, the ICT, and others like that are also part of the equity market. Why are they not playing part the way the financial sector? Go ahead.
Yeah, the other sectors are also doing well. The other sectors are fantastically doing well, given their level of liquidity and capacity. When we often mention the financial sector, is because of the level of liquidity in this very sector. So they are all doing their best based on their individual sectorial capacity, liquidity available, and interest of investors. Have in mind that the general principles of trading, buying, is the interest of investors, and that interest is anchored on return on investment. Return on investment is rewarded in form of dividend payment and price appreciation, in addition to bonus script when declared, which is not much often. So basically, the two interests of the investors is to have a regular dividend payment and price appreciation as a reward. So other sectors are also fantastically doing well, given the fact of the size of those very sectors, like you mentioned. The oil and gas is there. They are doing good. If you do an analysis of your individual stocks, you will find out that a good number of them, for instance, Seplat, from as low as 400 naira, is currently selling above 5,000 naira within the next 4 years, or the last 4 years or 5 years maximum. So imagine the tremendous increase or reward that investors in that sector have received from as low as 400 naira, 450 to 500 naira, to a current position of 5,000, giving more than 1,000% increase. So, like I said, other sectors are also doing well. If we should be picking them one after the other, Dangote Cement in the industrial sector is there, from somewhere around 150 to 120 to 180. Currently is selling above 400 naira in the last.
All right, we are having a network breaker. Although Mr. Steele is still speaking, and he will continue as he speaks right now, talking about the sectorial, performance of some of this equity, from the ICT to the oil and gas, and then to the, the industrial sector. We have the Dangote Sugar, the Dangote Cement, and the rest of them. But overall, the financial sector have been pulling weight, and that's what he's trying to explain to us, towards understanding. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, go ahead with your next question.
Okay, my next question will be, although you are trying to explain that part, but maybe when I ask the question, you can add to it. Now,
Okay. We had network interruption.
yes, we could not get you at a time.
Okay, let me try as much as possible to summarize. What I'm trying to say in essence is that every sector are all doing well. If you have to take a historic 4 to 5 years movement of both sectorial and individual stock, they've all done well. So it's not just all about the financial sector. So every other sectors are benefited in the overwhelming confidence and interest of investors in the market. Thank you.
Very good. And let me quickly ask, there's one particular statement you made, in the cross-examination of one of the things you are talking about. Viewers out there who want to participate in this stock are also interested in when they can get their money. And you said sometimes the history of payment of dividends matter. Why do we have different perspective when a particular company will be paying their own? It will be different from what this one is paying, or this one will be paying at the beginning and this one will be paying at the middle. What really makes it happen that way? Because many Nigerians are interested in the stock, but payment of their dividends is quite interesting to them when it comes to this issue.
Well, I think it's really what you just said, the last comment you made about the not uniformity of the payment dates is quite...
Okay, we can't...
of such respective organizations to elect when is their year end. Some have their year end 31st of December, some have in 30th of June, some have 31st of September, some have 31st of March. So it's the question of the individual companies, board and management electing the period and time their year end will be. So it's a cycle. It must be a 365 annual account reporting. So it's irrespective of the dates, the quarter you choose. It's totally irrelevant. But what should be of importance to investors is the consistency of dividend payment and the yield as a reward to investors, and plus the nature and the composition of this very board, which forms the critical part of the fundamental of a company. Those who are elected to be in the boards are the fundamental things that an average investors look at. If someone like you, who I know is trustworthy, is appointed into any of the board of the commercial banks, I will quickly move into such board because I know you'll be transparent, you will not allow illegal transactions happening, and I know you are hardworking, you are going to improve in the financial statements of such institutions. So these are the things investors look at, who are appointed in these very respective boards of this company, and that was the most often what drives the participation of investing public in such companies. If you have frontline people who only change the majority of the shareholders and not declaring what actually they've earned, or engages in frivolosities and extravagant living, and some of them even live in luxury, running jets from one place to another. You remember when Tedola was accusing some of the MDs of the banks, flying jets from one corner of the Nigeria to another, when federal government wanted to introduce the windfall tax to take some money from the bank. So there are existence of such records that some MDs and boards of these very institutions are quite reckless, and they are not actually prudent enough, given the fact that there is low yield or low returns for shareholders. So the composition of the board of this very company is also key. Very, very important in selecting which companies that shareholders or individual or prospective investors needs to invest in. Thank you.
I like the revelation you are giving, because most of the viewers will now be guided when they are going for any company shares they want to buy. But we encourage many Nigerians to participate on Nigerian stock market. Now, another very interesting issues that came up within the last 3 weeks under review that we are having today is that at the point, just in the last 3 weeks, 285 billion was taken as profit out of the entire stock market and bring about share depreciation. Why do we have that happening at the beginning of the year like this?
I may not understand what you mean by taking 255 billion
285
taken as
billion.
profit. Well, what I have, sometimes the market is underreported, and depending on what perspective you are reporting. But the number you shared now, perhaps are you talking about the shade in the market? Because what I have is close to about 1.4 trillion naira shaded from the values of aggregate quoted index in the market.
I think
To the
the
fact that
the one I'm quoting for you started early March. I think this one you have just quoted is just of recent. So I'm cumulating all these issues of the bearish outing of the Nigerian stock market altogether. But the one I just quoted happened early March before now. Well, we having okay. We can't hear you, Mr. Steve. We can't. Maybe you have to unmute yourself.
can have.
All right, go ahead, sir.
If you can allow me to speak to the data on
Oh
statistics,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
like
I
I
need it.
said,
Go ahead.
only last year we lost. Last week we lost about 532 billion naira in the market just last week. But if you can take a historic, maybe 2-3 weeks, you find out that yes, we might have gained in the couple of days or weeks past. Then subtracting those gains and the declines, so you can have that number you are talking about. Yes, possibly that's how you arrive to that number. But just last week alone, we lost about 532 billion naira in the market, given the depression we saw, some uncertainties around the economy, the emergency declaration, the pipeline explosions, and the rest brought some level of uncertainties. And you listen to some of the political stakeholders, our former president, when he made a very courageous comment regards to what investors look at. When you have such political instabilities, it doesn't give that confidence for investors to come. So you expect some investors becoming jittery, what will become mostly those key players in the oil and gas having to see the pipeline explosion. And I learned here last night there was another explosion also. So it's definitely going to affect most of these very quoted companies within the oil and gas, because most of them are into exploration of this very gas and crudes. So when you continue to hear stories of this nature, is not quite good enough.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And Mr. Steve, this will push me to divert a little, particularly the oil and gas sector, which the Nigerian stock market is also a good platform that its shares has been traded. When we look at Nigerian budget for 2025 and we see what is happening right now, you and I have spoke about the budget in the past on this show, and we are seeing something that look like that will become a limitation and hindrance to the crude production. And we're also seeing a reaction from the market. What will be at the end of the day if this continue and we are looking at the budget of 2.06 million barrels per day?
To be honest, not only the crisis that may erupt in the Niger Delta, given some uncertainties and agitations and tempers, and those who also fan in the embers of war, and perhaps it will definitely affect the revenue income from the oil. And have in mind that the 2025 budget as presented by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had over 61% or thereabouts as target of the revenue from the oil and gas. And if the critical sector that will bring these very revenues is being threatened by uncertainties and some level of restiveness, so imagine what will happen and what will be the fate, like you talked about, the oil projection benchmark of 2.06 million barrels per day. And from the international scene also, like I said, the attacks are coming from both local and international. As we speak, the crude is selling below $72 per barrel. And while the budget benchmark for the crude is around $75. So there is already a threat to the budget 2025 from local issues to the international fallout or play out of price realities around the international selling price of crude. As I speak, the Brent crude is selling below $72. In fact, it actually touched $69 a couple of days ago, and successively is coming up to 71.7, 71.8 or 71.7 dollar per barrel. So these are all threats to the national and implementation of those very key components of the budget 2025. So I think it's a really threat, and I'm sure government is unaware of these very factors and why he should tread with caution. Let's leave the volatilities and price fluctuation we witness in the international market that is beyond the control of Nigeria or
All right, there is a network
issues.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
And deal with the issues, the local issues, that the ones we can control. We can, put some level of certainty to security, certainty to production, certainty to investment in making sure that we meet this very production of 2.6 and even above it, 2.06 million barrels per day. So at least these are within the purview, within our ability, within our capacity to manage. Let's leave that of the international price fluctuations and volatilities, which is beyond us. Let's deal with these issues that will affect the production itself.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I think you have said something very great in this regard. Although it's a developing issues, we will keep tap on it, we'll keep updating, and maybe when time comes, we may also bring you in, because I know you are quite erudite in that aspect of the crude oil price and the rest of them. But let's go back to the Nigerian stock market, the equity market once again. Now, NGS Group have been doing fantastic work in terms of ensuring confidence and optimism in this regard, but there is still more work to be done. In your own regards, what would be your advice to NGS Group right now? Because a lot of Nigerians who are interested in this stock market, when they hear a report of decline and the rest of them, they may get jittery and So what would be your advice to NGS Group to bring about confidence and optimism in the Nigerian capital market?
Well, let me also ride on the fact that you said that is some great work being done by this very new leadership from the two major regulators, the Apex regulator, but the Securities and Exchange Commission. Agama is doing the best he could. We need more from him too. From the Nigerian Stock Exchange too. So we also need more from such leadership. So yes, of course, they are doing their best, but the market need more than what they are offering to the market. The level of confidence we need in the market should be driven by some level of transparency and some level of application and sticking to the rules of the game. We have seen most often some insider trading. We have seen most often some dubious activities that should be some level of penalties and scrutiny of such individuals, which the laws and the sections of the Investment Act actually provided. So we needed some level of such kind of implementation of such components of the existing laws that we penalize, that we punish, that we have as deterrent to those who may want to indulge in some insider activities and some other activities that does not promote the interest and confidence of investors in the market. So these are the areas I expect them to improve so much. And that will give that confidence we needed and drive growth. And
oh, we also have a freeze in audio. I hope we can hear. You can hear me. We can't hear you again, Mr. Steve.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
now?
we are hearing you now. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, okay. So what I was trying to say, in addition to regulatory provisions, they also need to improve in some of innovative programs, innovative policies that can drive and bring in the Gen Zs. It will shock you that the the demography of investors, I think, towards those in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. We don't have the Gen Zs of the 20s, the 30s in the market. Some of them don't even have knowledge and education of what the capital market is all about. Good enough, you are providing this platform for such Gen Zs and younger generation to understand that the market is there also for you to participate and get such benefits that the market provides. So I think they need to run programs, advocacy programs that will encourage, that will educate, and that will improve the participation of this very age brackets into the market. These are expectations of some of the operators or analysts like us.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Very fantastic from you. But recently they talk about educating women, bringing women with up-to-date knowledge about the financial sector, particularly the stock market. What do you have to say about that?
In addition to that, such innovative thinking is expected. You can do a targeted advocacy. You pick a certain age bracket, you pick a certain gender, you pick a certain professions, you pick them. There are good organized professions that you can reach out. If you can't reach out individually, you can pick Nigerian Bar Association and target a certain percentage of them. You can pick out some of these NGOs that are a good non-governmental organization that has a very wide participation of Nigerians, that you can actually exploit such platforms and educate Nigerians in respect to the values and benefits that is available in the capital market. So such is encouraged. In addition, let them expand such kind of targeted meetings, targeted advocacy. Thank you.
Right, very good from you, Steve. Now, before we let you go, what is your view about the next few days before the end of March into April for the market? Because we need to get your projection, because last 2-3 weeks it has been bearish. So what are you seeing from now to April and the rest of the days in the year?
Well, it can't be far from the news that will shape the market in a couple of days. As we speak, all investors are expecting declaration announcements of financial statement from the commercial bank, their year-end financial statement, and what have you, that may also benefit the investors. In fact, the eyes of investors are actually there in their dividend declaration. As I speak today, the UPA actually led such announcement today, and they declared the dividend payment, I think, around 3 naira. And there is a surge of interest in that stock, a renewed interest in that stock, and currently is trading above 38. In fact, it touched 39 naira 70 kobo and thereabout before some self-pressure resumed, where investors were taking profit, which is expected. So such kind of announcement is expected in the market as we speak. The likes of Zenith, the likes of GT, the likes of Access, the likes of First Bank, all of them are expected within this very period of today is 24th to 30th. This very make sure, because that's what the rule says, that you must make available such financial statement to investors before the 31st day or within the 31st day of March. So investors are actually looking out for that. Those are the kind of news that will shape the market from the banking's perspective. Then an industrial perspective and other consumer is also expected that their dividend declaration will also shape and tell us where the market will be in the next 1, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We also expected in the weeks ahead that the first quarter financial statement unaudited will be made available, and that will also drive the market sentiment to whichever, how positivity, how the increase that is witnessed in such very books, Nigerians and the investing public will react to it. Exactly. So it's expected that the investors will look at it from that perspective. Right. Like I said again, the market is still in a positive end.
Positive. That has been, the target of everybody. Analysts like you and I, we are hoping for that, gain for the market. And Steve, it's wonderful to talk to you today. I'm so pleased, and thank you so much for being on the show. We hope when next I call you again, you'll be here for me. All right, thank you.
Always my pleasure.
All right, that was a very interesting and insightful analysis from Steve Nwachukwu. And for Steve, enjoy the rest of your day over there.